Have you ever wondered what it's like living in Mexico, actually? Hey guys, it's Parrish. Welcome back to the channel. Today's topic, what I promised from my last video, is going to be about living in Mexico versus vacationing in Mexico. The two differences: a lot of people vacation Mexico for the first time, they fall in love and quickly want to move or relocate or buy property. But this video is going to tell you basically what the differences are when you're actually find yourself living in Mexico versus just vacationing for for a couple weeks. It's kind of like I refer to it as a new relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend or something. Once the honeymoon, everything is fun and great, the honeymoon phase, and then once that phase passes, it's kind of like, whoa, reality's sinking in, or you think maybe you're not meant for each other, or you just that excitement kind of goes away and diminishes. So I want to try to do this video as unscripted as possible. And for anybody that's new here, please, first of all, thanks for watching. I hope you stick around to the end of this video. Got a lot of good content in here that I'm going to provide based on my over 8 years experience living and developing property in Mexico. For my backstory, you can read the description of the video. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but please like and subscribe to this channel if you find this informative, useful. I would also love if you would share with your friends, anyone that's interested in Mexico lifestyle or real estate. I'm here to provide you guys with some great info and content. So I made some notes I'm going to try to read off of. I don't want to really edit this video. I really hate editing. I just really want to kind of wing it basically from my experiences. And so you might find me looking down on my paper here and there, but bear with me, we'll get through it together. I'll try to make it as exciting as possible. So first of all, I guess I want to talk about sometimes the simplest errands, I guess, in Mexico. Like for me being from Canada, okay, small town called Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, I could go run an errand, pick up a light bulb, pick up anything, right? In like a quick trip, okay? Generally, the store would have it in stock. If I needed something for my house or for my apartment, maybe a hose or like something for plumbing or a toilet, the plunger or something, whatever. Generally, it's a pretty easy thing to do. What I found when I first moved to Mexico, well, that's really not the case. And this is kind of what I tell people. I advise clients when you're trying to do errands in Mexico. Really, you only want to limit it to maybe 1 to 2 max per day, because if you try to do more in a day, you'll either find yourself stressed out, burnt out, or frustrated just because of the challenges and the frustrations that what you're normally used to in Canada or USA. It's very different in Mexico. Just coming with stores not having product in stock, not really trying to help you maybe find something, calling a different store, like customer service in Mexico is not really on par with US or Canada. I'm not blaming the country for it. I'm just saying from my experiences, if I would go to a Home Depot in Canada or just a small department store, they didn't have something, they would maybe check their system or make a phone call to a different location or check online, whatever, for you. In Mexico, they really just don't care. And that's just the way the culture is, the way it is. You got to get used to it. And to them, it's just, no, we don't have it, sorry. And they really don't go out of their way, I guess, to try to help you in your situation. I was, in Merritt, I was trying to find a light bulb, and, Home Depot said they had them in stock. I get there, no stock. I go to this other smaller smaller electronics store. My Spanish at the time was, not so well, poquito español, pero I could get by, but I went to this other electronics store, and I had the light bulb with me and showed them, and nope, no, sorry, but okay, can you send me somewhere else, anywhere else you can suggest? No, lo siento. So it's just very frustrating, and I ended up finding that light bulb at like Ace Hardware in Merida, long story short, and that was for a simple, stupid light bulb. That turned out to be about a 3 or 4 hour ordeal. And that's where it comes in handy. I would, if I could have, I would have just preferred to order it online. So yeah, something like that, little things. You gotta have a lot of patience, okay? And some people do, some people don't. I, for one, didn't in my beginning in Mexico, but I think I learned more about patience in the later years. I like to just, when I have something to do, I like to get it done and move on to the next thing. So, basically cross it off my list. I don't like putting around all day, wasting time. So your situation may be different. If you're retired, you may have more time. Obviously you would. So maybe it might not be as much of a situation for you, let's say. So one other thing, let's get to talking about, this comes along lines with patients as well, but services like banks, government offices, you can really find a lot of lineups, or I'll get into a couple stories, but yeah, government offices. So a lot of people, they pay not their utilities and stuff. They'll actually go and pay at the bank or government offices, etc. A lot of stuff isn't paid online yet. Some states or cities in Mexico you can pay online, but a lot of people still go to the bank. So if you're going to try to go to the bank, you really want to avoid paydays, number one. I learned that the hard way. Or the day or two around payday, 15th and usually the 1st or whatever, or the 16th and 1st. But anyways, long lineups of banks, government offices, so you gotta have patience. And another thing with ATMs in Mexico can be very, very unreliable. So I always recommend people having some pesos on them, and not a lot, but it's always good to have some pesos on you. And you're going to have a time, if you're living down there, where you're going to have to get more money. So every place I've lived in Mexico, I've always encountered problems with ATMs either not accepting my CIBC debit card, which they would have in the past, and just randomly one day would not want to accept my card, or finding bank machines that are out of money or not working. That is the biggest pet peeve or just frustration I've had in my years in Mexico. One of the biggest ones. It's always when you're in a hurry, you're in a rush, you're going to meet friends or a meeting or a dinner or something, and you want to have some pesos on you, or you need pesos for parking or whatever. And I cannot. This story just happens all the time where I go to my normal bank machine, out of service. Okay, I drive to the next one, no cash. Third one, not working. Sometimes that does happen. In one instance, it could take 3 or 4 different ATMs to finally actually dispense you some money, to find one that's working, that has cash, or So that is something that. And this is at bank ATMs. This can be at just freestanding ATMs, or sometimes the bank ATMs where I would normally take out money. So just kind of something to keep in mind. It's always good to just stock up on 10, 20, 30,000 pesos, keep them in a safe at home or something, so you just have access and don't always have to frequently go to a bank machine. So yeah, long story. But so getting back on point. So I want to talk about now. Okay, let's talk about services. Utility services, for example. Mexico has one power company called CFE, and it is very, very unreliable. Depending on where you are in Mexico, it's a monopoly. It's one company that controls the power grid all over Mexico. They really are very slow in responding. It's a very poor system and infrastructure, especially the older, places. It's very common to have power outages. So when you're vacationing at a resort, for example, which most people do, I'm sure some of you guys have ventured out into condos or Airbnbs, etc. You might have experienced power outages, you might have not. At a resort, you're pretty much not going to. But when you find yourself, when I first moved to Mexico, a small beach town I was living, and it was not uncommon for at least once every month, twice a month, to have some type of power outages. Could have been a quick reset, or it could have been something that took a few hours to fix. I remember one time a transformer blew, and I think it was 5 days without power. I finally left. I went to Playa del Carmen and stayed in a hotel. So yeah, that when I first moved to Mexico, that was a shock to me. I wasn't really used to that, as obviously being in Canada. So it's just something to be prepared for, something that, can happen anywhere in Mexico. The bigger cities generally have better stock on supplies, parts, better service, time. The smaller communities, smaller areas definitely don't. So that is something to definitely keep in mind as well. Water, water services too can be a problem. Utilities, internet's gotten pretty good lately. The last few years, there's been a lot of good options. Total Play, Telmex, Telcel, I think has internet now. Izzy. There's quite a few options, and I found internet actually to be pretty reliable and stable in my overall experience. So now let's talk about I guess the differences in Mexico and in general. When you're visiting or vacation, you go to one area and you fall in love, let's say, and you really like it. But I always tell people, Mexico is such a big, diverse, and beautiful country in terms of climates, like the weather, temperature, and terrains, mountains, flats, hills, etc. Obviously, the ocean, the coastal communities. So when people are vacationing, let's say they vacation in Tulum or Puerto Vallarta, whatever, and they really like, wow, I love this place, it's so cool, and maybe buy property here. And I always tell people I always suggest to rent around, because what I've seen in the years, in some of my clients with my real estate course, they fall in love with an area and end up buying right away, and realize, then they go on vacation in a different part of Mexico and realize, oh shit, we like this area better, and they didn't know this place existed. So I always advise people to narrow down 2-3 different places and rent for a while in each, and see what you really like, see what resonates with you, and don't just settle. Just don't settle like in a relationship. There could always be something better out there, but don't settle for the first place you see or first area, because Mexico, you got central Mexico, which is cooler climates, and then you got the beach communities, which is hot, humid. You got the mountains, Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco, that whole west coast, mountains, and the east coast, Yucatan, Quintana Roo is very flat. So if you're older, you don't want to worry about climbing stairs, hills. Yucatan may be better for you just because it's flatter terrain. So just something to consider about, right? So let's skip to the next topic. Okay, I want to talk about noise. I want to talk about why, after I think my first year in Mexico, I invested in a good quality set of earplugs just so I could sleep. Now, it totally depends where you're going to be, of course, neighbors, your area, community. Can you handle barking dogs most all day and part nights? Can you handle parties, your neighbors? Mexican people love celebrating. They love celebrating their country. They love celebrating their holidays, and that's fine. Nothing against that. But if you're, American Canadian, you might not like that. You might not be used to that. Fireworks, parties, bands playing all night, 6, 7 in the morning. So something to consider. Earplugs is an excellent. If you haven't moved, or if you're planning to move, you'll quickly find out, and that's why I advise to rent around. See what the neighbors are like, see what the noise is like, because it could be bad. And I've had a few bad experiences in places I've rented. I was fortunate where I lived in Merida, in North Merida. It was a residential area, but it was very quiet. But I lived in Playa del Carmen. I had many sleepless nights there just because it's very noisy, very touristy, party town. Earplugs really didn't help. I know a lot of people invest in white noise machines and this and that, and noise cancellation. That'll definitely help as well. But that's something to consider. Is can you handle loud bikes? A lot of the motorbikes, they either take their exhaust off or don't fix them, and they're loud. The cars are loud, and that can affect your quality of life. That can affect your sleep. So just something to really consider. So now let's talk about mañana, Mexican time. It is true from my experience over the years in Mexico. And when I set a time for a meeting, I generally expect people to I expect them to respect that, I guess, right? And I knew Mexico going in. I knew when I moved, I knew about manana, Mexican time, everything is slow. And yeah, it is true for the most part. So again, this gets back to patience. Do you have patience? If someone tells you they're going to come see you at 3 o'clock, well, that could be 5 o'clock, that could be 6 o'clock, it could be 9 o'clock, it could be in the morning, and they won't even generally tell you, right? They'll just show up whenever they want to. So, and we got to remember, it's their country, it's their culture, it's their traditions. And we're not here to change that. I'm not, wasn't in Mexico. I'm not in Mexico to change that. So you got to be willing to adapt to that and accept it and be patient. Otherwise, Mexico could be not very fun for you. And this is just speaking truth and facts, right? From my experience. So not everyone is like that in Mexico. I've met people that I've worked with, clients or just other businesses that they respected the time, and that's great. So, and I talk about a lot of these nuances and struggles in my course, Mastering the Mexican Real Estate Market. So it may be something that, obviously you're interested in checking out. I'll leave a link in the description and in the comments. You can check it out. And basically it's video modules that talks about all my experiences in over 8 years of living and building property in Mexico, my places I've lived, places I've visited, traveled to, tips on how to buy property in Mexico, all the legal nuances, dealing with notaries, etc., how to find, a great property. I also include a list of my trusted real estate agents that I worked with all over Mexico. So that might be something that you find valuable, where I basically share my knowledge to people that are, and it is frustrating. Anyone that's looking to buy property in Mexico, it's sometimes you don't know where to start. And can be very frustrating to search Google for hours and don't know if the information is true. Well, I packaged everything, together into these video modules that you can access basically at any time at your pace, and it's lifetime access. And I also include a bunch of, downloadable resources and guides and quizzes, etc. So be sure to check it out and let me know, what you think. So yeah, that's basically, just checking here what's going left. That's pretty much it. So yeah, I guess we'll wrap up here. I hope that, you found it informative, just sharing some info and, experiences that might help new people in their new life, or if they're considering Mexico or a different country, it might help you in your decisions, and that's what I'm here for. So if you like this, guys, please, I would love you if you could like and subscribe, share this content. I would really appreciate it and help me getting this knowledge out there to everybody. And thank you for watching, and we will hasta luego, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.